Hello. Oh, thank you for the resub, Michio. $29 months. Okay, I think I have everything set up. But I won't be able to bounce the audio until... Oh, hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
How's my audio? Okay.
You sound good. Let me bring you up to just about... Okay, you should be at the same level I am.
Testing, testing.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
I just minimized everything. I'm very professional. Okay.
So are we just chatting? But do we have a definitely not a podcast name yet?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Or good start, good start.
Welcome to the Definitely Not a Podcast stream, where we will be talking about AI art and how we feel about it, what we've seen about it, and what we think should be done relative to it. Things like laws or how people should interact with it, things like that.
So the reason that I originally brought this up is because I work for a pen tablet company that starts with a W, aka Microsoft. And as you can imagine, like, our products are very heavily, widely used by artists, right? And as AI art is becoming more of a thing, for lack of better wording, we had a VP essentially tell us, like, right now the company's official stance is neutral because it's so new. Where we as a company need to know more about it. And me, I'm sitting there like, what? So I found that, like, as a what is AI generated art? And you tell me if this is your understanding of it as well, because I think you said you haven't tried the tool yet, right?
Yeah, you have to pay for it, don't you?
Do you?
The thing, I watched a bit of a YouTube video where someone was doing it, and they told me what program they were using, and when I looked at that program, you had to pay for it. I don't know if there are free ones that are as robust or not, but I know that for the better ones, you have to, like, purchase a subscription to use the tool.
Do you remember the tool that you saw? Did it start with the letter D as in dog and end in E sound? Is that the one?
It's been a while.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I was just wondering because that was the one that was mentioned at work, and then, like I said, Mr. Muccio has been using it to, like, generate memes almost. Like, they enter in the most ridiculous prompts that they can think of and, like, share the resulting images with each other. I'm pretty sure that one's free because I couldn't see them paying for it, but who knows. Okay, so I guess then I haven't used it either, I guess, and I haven't watched Mr. Muccio use it just because I kind of refuse. But, like, my understanding of it, and again, tell me if this is your understanding as well, is that it's like a search engine, but you type in prompts, so like balloons or murlocs or whatever you can think of, right? And I guess once you type in your prompts, there might be more parameters. I don't know, 2D, 3D, black and white, sepia filter. You press enter, and then AI just scans images available on the internet, which is the gross part, in my opinion, and then amalgamates, like, it spits out a piece, and that's your AI generated art. And I guess as I'm saying this out loud, maybe I should have seen the resulting, because I'm picturing like a collage, right? But obviously that's not it for it to be so popular already. But just the fact that, like, where do these images come from? Is it Google image search? Is it stock art? Or what? Shutterstock, right? does it only search Shutterstock? In which case, what happens if you type in, again, like Murlocs or Harry Potter? So that's my understanding of it. Do you know more or less different?
So from my understanding, it doesn't necessarily trawl the internet when you put in the search terms. Instead, it is constantly trawling the internet. And then when you put in the terms, it has an like if you put in, say, Murloc and balloons, it has an understanding from its trawling of the internet of what a Murloc is supposed to look like and what a balloon is supposed to look like, or a bundle of balloons. And then it will spit out something that contains a Murloc and those balloons from the AI's, the program's understanding of what those look like.
Starting to think maybe I don't understand AI fundamentally, but okay. So, but again, oh, go ahead.
I was going to add, because your question about is it just trawling Google, is it using Shutterstock? From what I've seen, they are using any image hosting service anywhere, including sites like DeviantArt and Instagram, where people are very much posting their own art that they own, and have not given the rights for other people to use.
So, quick side note, this is how you know I'm ancient, is when you said image hosting, I was like, oh, so they use like PhotoBucket. Holy cow, does that site even exist anymore? Why don't I just say, like, you Angel Fire, Geocities?
Didn't PhotoBucket go down? I don't remember.
That's probably, well, now I'm curious. Because I guess, because it's, you know how like Reddit uses Imager, IMGUR?
Yeah.
And people post their art on Reddit, right? And so I imagine for whatever was pre-Imager, pre-Reddit, I guess, LiveJournal and PhotoBucket, again, dating myself, I have to imagine people put their original works on there. But I guess it goes back to the same thing, right? People, the AI sites have access to and are actively pulling from sites where people post their original work.
Yes. Yeah, any site that has publicly visible artwork, the AI is I always feel that AI is a misnomer. It's not. This is not a sentient being making a conscious decision. It is a program that is collecting and retaining information to spit out the desired output.
So, do you know if, and I think based on what you described, yes, but I'm just like already baffled by the fact that there's no limits to what it's trawling. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like photographers who have their own portfolios online, or the guy who did my Pikachu paintings, right?
Yeah.
He's got his portfolio online. Like you said, it's publicly available. And you can view the pictures, obviously. I know some sites you can't copy paste or anything like that, but you can screenshot or you can crudely take a picture with your phone. You know, there's ways around it. But the fact that it's his site and it's public, in theory, that's also eligible, right?
Yep. Hello, Coma. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that a lot of people are angry about is like there is no opting out of being included in the AI engine's searching. Like, because you can't stop the program from doing that. If your work is visible online and it's not behind a paywall, then there is no way to stop these programs from analyzing and learning your work.
Technical difficulties. Coma says I'm in a tunnel. Uh-oh.
What? Oh, wait, is this the case where you're echoed for people who are not wearing headphones?
Oh no. Echo.
I remember we had that issue before, and we didn't actually have a solution. It was just, oh no, Coma has earbuds in.
Yeah, I know in OBS you can like go into advanced audio properties and set it to mono, but I remember you said like you already do that.
I think mine was already set to mono.
Yeah.
You sound normal to me. I don't know. Like, it's less of an echo, more sounds like you're in an empty room. Is this how Michio normally sounds when you're on Discord voice chat with Michio? Like,
Go. Echo. Live troubleshooting. I guess, should we continue? Because I unfortunately do not have another mic.
yeah, I mean, you sound to me the same as you've always sounded.
Okay.
So if that was good enough for all the Pokemon rating streams, then it's probably good enough for this.
Koma upgraded his audio input hardware, and so it's not bad. It's not. I have a mic. I swear, it might be in storage.
I mean, you do kind of sound like you're talking on a phone, but I mean that is what you're doing, right?
I was like, yeah, I am talking on the phone. I'm so sorry. Okay, next one. This is definitely not a podcast. 0.5. For 1.0, I will bring back the mic. Okay, so I guess since we've established, even though neither of us have used the software, what it is, I think, do you want to... I gotta sneeze. Hold on, sorry. Do people... Okay, I've never heard people sneeze on podcasts. Man, I am unprofessional. You're welcome, Flair. Dragging down the quality single-handedly.
I would say that almost every podcast you've ever listened to is edited, so that when people sneeze, they just edit that out.
When we watched the live special, Without a Recipe Live, I guess they had 6 cameras, so never mind. If someone was about to sneeze, they would just cut away. Okay, anyway. Now that we've kind of established, like, what it is conceptually, do you want to dive into... Well, do you mind if we dive into first? Because I know you had a lot of thoughts on, like, what rules should be implemented, laws, and things like that. But do you think, first, I would like to hear your take on the best word I could think of, and I wrote this down, and maybe you can correct my wording before answering the question, but, like, is this ethical? It just feels like stealing.
Yeah. So my take on it is there's with just about everything, there's nothing inherently wrong with AI art. The issue, as we established, is that it's trawling for pictures that it doesn't have the rights to own. And I think that is unethical to even going, I would even go so far to say it's not only unethical to sell that art, but if your AI is generating art that is based on other people's stuff that you don't have permission to use, then you're basically just taking their art and reposting it under your own name. You are diverting their audience with their own art. It's like going into a bakery, buying a dozen croissants, going outside and setting up a stand and selling a dozen croissants to passersby.
Zero credit given to where, like, the original source, the original chef, the original artist.
Yeah, and even if you're not selling it, I mean, that's still a dozen croissants that, like, those are people who would have gone into the store, and you're just... Honestly, it's not even like you went in and bought it, because they don't pay for the art. It's like you went in and stole a dozen croissants and then walked outside and started handing them out to people. Because yeah, they are not purchasing the rights to that art. They are not asking permission. They're not paying any residuals. Like if you had I think this is a good example. Like if you had a team of artists working on a piece, we'll say a big mural on a wall, that entire team would get paid, even though it's a whole bunch of different people creating that one singular piece, so it's not any one of their individual styles. If your AI is gathering samples from 100 different people and creating a single piece, each of those people contributed to that piece, and you owe them for that. At least to me, that's how I look at it.
So, ideally, and I guess we're jumping right into like what rules should be put in place, but based on the kind of issue that you have described, which by the way I agree with, I think I don't know, it's just it seems unethical, it seems like stealing, even if you're just using it for your own purposes. Like again, like Mr. Michio and his friends, they like send memes to each other, right? But the program is still taking others' work. So it should, I think in a perfect world, it should be one of two things. Either like the service that you're using or the program that you're using only pulls from, what's the term?
Stock images.
Stock images
or fair use.
Fair use? Common market?
Yeah, common license, common use license, common...
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but I want the... What is the word?
I almost said common law. That's not.
Creative Commons license.
Yes. Yeah. So either that or stock images or both, right? But like imagery that the creators of those, just limiting to 2D art right now, that the creators intended to be used publicly.
Yes.
So I guess that's the first solution. And then, well, maybe it's not even well, no, you're right. And I said that to myself. That would be like the first solution, right? Using publicly available images and limiting your AI software to that. The second thing is almost like an affiliate program, but allowing the artist to opt in. So like, and I don't know if this is possible. I feel like it must be. Knowing zero about programming, I feel like it must be possible. But like setting it up so that artists can opt in and they get a percentage, realistically would be probably very, very small. But like artists can opt in and then get a percentage every time that their image, their Instagram post, their DeviantArt, whatever, is pulled into a resulting piece. Not even if that piece gets used for anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's... I think that's the way to go. People giving their explicit permission for their art to be included and getting reimbursed is not the right word. What's the word? Getting paid for it, but like there's a compensated for it.
Agreed. I think, yeah, logistics and like, is it possible aside, I think at a high level, those are the only two things I can come up with to make it essentially not theft, right? But that relies on all parties involved doing the right thing, essentially. Like, if we take the super specific example of Instagram, right? Make it so that ideally, the default option would be do not opt in, and then you have to manually toggle. But knowing like Zuck and the people who make the software, again, broad generalities, don't actually know how all this works. If they implemented that, I could see the default being opt in, so that there's more images to pull from, right?
Yep. And because all of those companies, what they're looking for is to tell those AI the owners creators of the AI software to tell them we'll set all of our users to opt in by default and let you troll our websites if you pay us a fee. And then the company is getting compensated for it, not the artists.
I didn't even think of that. So just repeating back, like, again, taking the example of Insta. Insta is gonna work with AI art company one, and they're gonna, like you said, we're gonna make all our users opt in by default. Users have to manually toggle off, but that's effort. Most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll sell you the rights so that we get paid, but in our like terms of service, when people sign up, it's in the fine print, and so they don't actually get paid.
Exactly.
Did we just predict the future?
I think honestly, it would be safe to go ahead and call that the present at this point. I'm certain companies are already working on drawing up the documents for that.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, because I guess I don't know what the current precedent rules with the current practices. I guess, like, say you want to create your own piece of art. Well, that's just art theft at that point, right? If I go and scroll Instagram and take somebody's picture and like mess up the filters a little bit, maybe blur some edges, and then present that as my own, without paying the original artist, without acknowledging them, that is straight up theft.
Yep.
But technically, that's doable right now.
Yeah. And a lot of people do it. There are, like, that's the thing. Like, why you've seen the rules, the laws that I wrote up. They're pretty harsh, pretty absolute, and that's because we already know that people will abuse this, because people already go to like open up a DeviantArt account and post hundreds of pictures that are just stolen from other people, and they'll say, oh yeah, I made all this. And there are people who create Instagrams that are just other people's pictures but with a few tweaks or filters. Have you paid the pugs for their Insta pictures? I'm pretty sure they get fed every day.
Wow. So let's dive into the rules that, or would you say rules, laws, ethics, morals that you think that I would argue, I'd be willing to bet, maybe not like my whole art collection, but one Jesus statue, that none of these are in place right now.
Oh yeah, no. There's currently these are my thought on the laws that should be put in place. There are not currently any. It's too new, and there probably won't be any laws until it becomes a problem for someone rich, because that's how our government works. At least there won't be any laws in the U.S.
So just to clarify, the fact that there's no laws, or not even, again, AI art site one, do you think there's probably not any TOS or anything like that on the site itself that absolves them of any wrongdoing? Or like, because like if an artist sees their work being modified and posted elsewhere, and whoever posted it is specifically like, I created this image using the software, buy my t-shirt with it on it, the original artist then has issues with both the software and the person who stole it, right? And I guess all that's to say, like, if they took the software company to court, I wonder if there's something in the fine print, like, that is like, do not sell this. If you sell this, you're on your own, kind of thing. Clearly, I'm not a lawyer.
I would bet that the companies that the companies or people who have created the AI art software, that they have put in their terms of use things like you do not own the images created, or you do not have the rights to sell the images created or anything like that. And you are liable for whatever use you put the images to. Yeah, there's probably some kind of self-defense jargon in there.
Okay. So but at the end of the day, they're protecting themselves, and the rules that you've kind of listed out are not only protecting the original artist, but again, making sure they're compensated. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. The main goal. Well, I'll go ahead and read out the rules and explain each one as I go, and then talk about like what I was thinking behind it. So, the first thing that I put was you cannot sell AI generated art. I feel like that should be put in place as a law right now, purely because companies will find loopholes. If you have anything longer than like a 10-word sentence, companies will find a loophole. So, and already in this, you cannot sell AI generated art. Well, we won't sell it. We'll just bundle it with something else. Like it but regardless, that one is mostly to stop companies from using AI software to generate art instead of actually paying someone for it, in cases where the art is the point. So I'm not talking about things like trying to think of a good example. Like if Bank of America decided to use AI generation to decide what the design of the next credit card's going to be, that isn't what I'm talking about here. It's more things like t-shirts. You can't sell a t-shirt with AI art on it. You can't sell decorations or posters or things like that. Then after that, because this was the first loophole I thought of, you can't use AI generated art for marketing purposes, meaning you can't. My first thought was, again, like a t-shirt company that uses AI generated art to advertise t-shirts that it doesn't sell, to imply that, oh, look at these shirts that we have that definitely look like they're from this specific artist. We definitely sell t-shirts like that, so you should come to our company and buy our t-shirts. Or just ways to use AI art to imply, that you do sell art like that when you don't. Does that make sense?
So, yeah. So I'm trying to think about that. So, if in that hypothetical, the company itself, like you said, has the images in like the marketing material, but say you go to their site and what they marketed isn't, they obviously don't have that specific shirt, what have you, for sale, but do they then have, I hate to say it, but like knockoffs?
Yes. Yeah.
But again, the idea is to get people to click on the site, aka marketing, and that still should be outlawed because you're indirectly profiting off of stolen images.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then I added an exception to that. The sole exception is to market the AI generator itself. Because, I mean, how else are you going to market it? You can't be like, believe me, this thing really does great art, but I can't show it to you. You'll just have to trust me that it's... Obviously, that doesn't work. So there would be, there would be the exception of companies that are actually creating the AI art generators can use examples of their art of their own created art in their marketing, but strict limitations on the art that can be used. Obviously, they can't just troll the internet for art. Then number 3, I have you must have the artist's explicit permission to feed their works into the AI generator. We were talking about that. You have to get, like, you can't just assume permission. There is no. This goes beyond like you're opted in by default. This is you explicitly must contact the artist, explain what the AI generator is, tell them how it's going to use their art, and get their permission and okay to use the art. There is no default opt-in. There is no beg forgiveness rather than ask permission. Like, you have to explicitly, they have to be fully aware of what it is that you're doing with their art before you can get their permission.
So this brings up a quick side thought, which could very well be another episode once we have a name. Is this, what am I trying to say? This reminds me of how, you know how it seems like in the last, 3, 4, 5 years, every website you go to has the whole like cookies thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the similar kind of lawmaking that would get us to this point, right? I think definitely more strict, because the cookies pop up. I feel like it's very ineffective, and a lot of people just press accept all to get the prompt up your screen, right? Go ahead.
And in my experience, a lot of sites make the turning off non-essential cookies difficult or actually impossible.
Yeah. Don't remember your preferences. Yep.
Or what was it? It was Patreon. Patreon was guilty of this with the cookies thing. Every time I loaded up the site, if I had, or every time I refreshed the page, if I had turned off cookies, they turned back on without notifying me. I went back to the cookie settings and they were flipped back on every time I refreshed the page.
So I bring that up because in this case we're talking about like people's, is intellectual property the correct word here?
Yes.
Like okay. We're talking about people's IP, which I think needs to be handled. We could argue with more care. I don't want to say, your personal data is less important than your IP, but for the sake of this conversation, I think the any and all laws that are instated need to be stricter so that we don't get situations exactly like what you described, where you say, I guess I keep defaulting back to like the default opt-in position, because again, I can just picture sites doing that. But still, I think it needs to be clearer, right? Because because I could see maybe there's like, I do not allow, I don't want my works to be available to AI generated art, and then in like size 1 font for this session that I'm on this site, like, just any and all loopholes, because the whole, again, taking a sinister, cynical, but also capitalistic approach of these companies, I guess, they want as big of a pool, as many sources as possible, right? And with people opting out, they're not going to get that.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate reality of protecting people's IP, is a lot of people aren't going to want their art put into an AI generator. That sucks for the AI generators, but that's the reality of the device they decided to create. It's like making a chair that constantly kicks your foot. Yeah, there's going to be a few people who are okay with that, but a lot of people don't want a chair that kicks their foot.
Sorry, mid-sneeze. It's not coming out, but I don't want to sneeze in your ear. You think that, again, hypothetically, if these laws were able to be implemented effectively, I guess effectively is the emphasis here, do you think we would end up in a weird scenario where, like, the concept of AI generated art But let's say it's not going to go away, right? These companies, the creators of the software, I guess, they really it's not going to go away, right? Do you
Hmm.
think we'll get to a point where, because these rules are in place, but obviously people want devs want to sell their software, want people to use their software. Do you think we'll get to a point where they'll hire artists specifically to create art to be used for their software?
It depends on how cheaply they can hire those artists, but yeah, I think that may end up being the case, because you could get a team of like 5 artists creating whatever art round the clock, and then just drawing or painting or whatever stuff, just random things. Like today you're going to be opening the dictionary and drawing or painting nouns for letters A through D. Like, very, very generic stuff that they can then feed into the AI software and have it spit out the specific things people are asking for. So that could be a functional business model, depending on how much they can sell the use of the engine for, and how much they can get away with not paying the artists, which is always the goal of every company.
So my first thought was like, at what point, say, a company is set up like that, and then they sell the engine to product company XYZ, who then uses it in their marketing material. I guess the goal there, not the goal, but the point there would be the company that buys the service can, again, bypass creating, or I'm sorry, paying for their own artists or paying for original works, but still have unique and original, I'm doing air quotes, art for their marketing purposes. Are we just circling the drain of, like, in a capitalistic society, it goes back to literally what you said. People want original works of art, but they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, I think that's the key problem that we are trying to solve, and I'm not sure there's really a solution. I think the best we can do is every time someone finds a way to get stuff for free while screwing over other people, put a stop to it. There will always be another method. So it's kind of just, it's infinite whack-a-mole. Capitalism whack-a-mole.
I think there were two more that you had listed out.
Oh yeah. This one, AI art must be clearly labeled as AI generated. This can be via watermark, title, caption, tag, but it must be clear. No calling it quote unquote digitally created art, because that is an art medium, digital art. And they claim, oh, but digital, that means electronic, which is what an AI is, None of that. It has to be clearly, specifically labeled and visible without additional clicking. So no, like it has to be on the picture or on the page the picture is on, without having to scroll through all the comments first, all the way to the bottom of the page, 300 comments deep, or clicking on a read more tag to expand, and then in very tiny print it'll say AI generated or anything like that. And I have that because, one, that helps keep people honest. Companies are going to have a real hard time trying to sneak AI art into their sites if they trying to. It's not going to keep people honest who are planning to break the rule of you can't use the AI art, but companies that are trying to I guess not. I don't know. I guess the first two rules of you can't sell it and you can't use it for marketing purposes mean this rule isn't as important, but I still feel like it needs to be there so that people are aware that that's what they're looking at. It makes it harder to, I don't know, trick people somehow.
Period. I think just at at a basic level, I think it's always good. Anytime you're looking at or you've got a piece of art, I think it's always good to credit the source. And if it's AI generated, I think knowing that, short of knowing all the individual people and all the individual works that were pulled together to create this, I think knowing that it was AI generated is important. Just like you would want to know the source and medium of any other artwork.
Right. Yeah. And then the fifth one is because this is something we need to start thinking about as technology advances, and we need to start putting caveats like this into law now rather than trying to address this after it happens. If an AI is deemed to have achieved sentience, they are deemed a person, and these rules do not apply to works they create anymore. I don't know when we will eventually create artificial intelligence that is actually a person, but it's gonna happen eventually. And the smoother we can make that transition to we've created an artificial intelligence to recognizing them as a person and giving them full rights, the better. Both from a robot apocalypse standpoint, but also just from, like, imagine a baby being born in the world and we aren't sure if it's a person, so we don't give it any rights for like 15 years. That's not okay. So it may sound sci-fi-y, but I think it's a caveat we need to start putting into rules that, like, personhood extends to or rules about robots and AI don't apply to ones that we have extended personhood to.
For the sake of argument / helping me understand, I agree with the last bit that you said there. Conceptually, if an AI is determined to achieve sentience, they're deemed a person. Agree with that, and they should have the same rights that a person does. However, in terms of AI generated art, if they're sentient enough to be deemed a person, then isn't it just goes back to art theft? Because circling back to the beginning, like I said, people do this kind of thing manually already today. In my opinion, and I'm open to, like, your thoughts or your disagreement, this tool is just making it faster for people to do kind of stuff that already happens. So it's, again, very cynical take, but also not untrue. Question mark?
My thought is at a absolute most basic level, this is how any art is created. Any human that creates art is creating based on all of their life experiences and things they've seen. A completely brand new original piece that a human creates is still going to be based on all of their life experiences in some way. The way that they draw, a skeleton is going to be based on how skeletons they've seen in their life. So when it comes to an AI that has gained sentience, at that point, I feel like it is worse to limit their rights and freedoms as a person than I think that is the worst option versus the art that they create is going to be based on other people's art. Does that make sense?
Okay. Conceptually, yes. I think it goes back to what you said about, like, working out the finer details before it happens so that we're prepared, I think that is going to be a long road. But I think conceptually, I get and agree with what you're saying.
I would also add on, once the AI is determined to be a person, they're not being used by a company or by thousands, millions of people worldwide to generate art on a mass scale. They may decide to create art on their own, but it is no longer. They are now a competitor to. They are now an artist competing with other artists, rather than a company that is granting access to unlimited free art to everybody, off the backs of all the artists who are actually doing the work.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you're if an AI achieves sentience and is deemed a person, is it really ethical to continue using it in the same way? Basically, yes. That gets into a different discussion. Okay.
Yeah,
I get that.
I'm not expecting AI art generators to gain sentience. This is more someone somewhere is going to create sentient AI, and technically, as written, these rules would apply to it, to the art it creates, unless we put in a caveat that, well, yes, it's an AI and it's generating art, but it's a person. Technically, everybody's an AI. We're all artificially created by our parents.
Have you heard it was literally possibly a decade ago, when John Oliver interviewed Stephen Hawking and asked him about AI?
I remember that happening, and I remember nothing else about it.
Oh, basically, so John Oliver asks Stephen Hawking about it, like you said, and Stephen Hawking tells this story, very short, where he's like, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it just makes me think of the story where like scientists create an AI that achieves sentience. The first thing it says is it like asks the scientists like, do you believe in God or whatever, and then once the scientists respond, presumably in the context of the story they say no, the AI then goes in and like destroys his own electric plug, but then after doing that is like, there is now. You know what? I butchered it so badly. Maybe we can edit that part out. This makes me think of that to where it's like, I really appreciate your point of like, if it gains sentience, we really cannot continue to, like, it's a person now. Like, you can't treat a person like you would before.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're coming up on the 1 hour mark, so closing thoughts? Oh, actually, I did want to. There was one thing that I wrote that I wanted to get your take on. Is short of the, again, like you said, short of AI gaining sentience, and then they become a person, and if they choose to create art, that's their own prerogative, right? Like, before we get to that point, and while AI generated art remains a software, a service, do you think we'll see AI generated art pieces in museums? Do you think we'll get to that point?
I think so, but as an exhibit about AI art. I don't think we're going to get like the Louvre having AI art in it, but I think that a modern museum or the Museum of Natural History would post exhibits that are more about the concept of AI art than the art itself. I don't think that we're going to get AI art pieces that museums will have in them because they're beautiful. I think that putting aside all of the implications and outrage that would cause in the artistic community, I think museums are a little too snooty for that.
That's fair. That's I always, again, showing how old I am. I always think about like what societal changes could come in our lifetime that I would fundamentally disagree with. You know how like older generations disagree with things that younger generations are like, well, yeah, that's a given. Like, don't be like that. I always try to think of, again, because I'm old and paranoid. I always try to think of things that would happen that younger generations would accept, and this might be one of them. Where, like you said, I think if things with like museums and the rules of AIR kind of has we described how they would ideally be, I think if all that stays in place, I think you're right. Like you said, museums are like too snooty and too traditional to get there. But I could also see as we become the oldest generation, living generation, and like, what would it be? Gen Alpha, 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 Alpha. I guess there's other Greek letters, beta, sigma.
Nope, it's just all alphas from here on out.
Yeah, great. Alpha, 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 Alpha. To them, it's like normal, and that's what goes into museums. I think that's something that I personally would have a hard time accepting. But I think in the short to medium term, I think what you said makes a lot of sense. We would have specific exhibits, but not necessarily like you said in the Louvre, like next, in the room next to the Mona Lisa, it's like AI generated. Like I don't even think, off the top of my head, I don't even think traditional, quote unquote, museums have any form of digital art, right? It's all like physical. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so. There's a different word for it, but I can't think of it.
Corporeal? No.
But yeah, I would not be surprised if to hear that no museum has any digital art in it.
I think that was all I had. So closing. Or did you have more points that you wanted to bring up?
I had two other points. We can skip one of them because it wasn't really. It wasn't a fully developed thought. It was, if we run out of things to say, we could talk about this. But I remember seeing a Reddit post talking about AI art. I don't normally browse Reddit that much, but I don't even remember how. I don't think you linked me to it. I think I came across it somewhere. But in it, someone compared in just about the least charitable way they could have. This was very much a gotcha post. But they compared AI art taking essentially work away from artists to machines taking away blue-collar jobs. And I think that there is something to be said there, not the way that this poster said it, but there is an element of, yes, if AI generators get good enough, and if we do allow companies to use AI art in marketing and things they sell and movies and games and everything, and moving on beyond just like visual art, but like music and story writing and things like that, then that's going to put a lot of artists out of work. And in our capitalist society, it fucking sucks. We are supposed to move forward to a world where no one has to work and thus everyone's free to do what they want all day, but instead we're moving to a world where no one's being paid to work, and so we're all starving on the streets. So there is that aspect to it, but I think it does go beyond that, because like the example that I wrote down was self-checkout versus paying a cashier. Companies have been slowly but steadily replacing cashiers with self-checkouts, which, is costing people their jobs. But most, I would say, I would bet that 99% of the people don't want to be a cashier and would not cashier as a hobby. There is no joy, inherent joy in the act of cashiering. But people make art, they make songs, they write stories for fun. And to me that makes it that's the other aspect of it. Like, there's the inherent aspect of, yes, companies could use this to not pay artists, but also things that people are creating for themselves for their joy are being stolen from them. It's more personal to me than just the job being taken away. It's something they've created, some aspect of themselves that is being stolen and sold without their permission.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I read a similarly sinister, cynical, pessimistic, negative screenshot of a tweet on Reddit on the whole thing, where it's in terms of companies wanting this to be available and using it to replace artists. It was less about that and more like taking away exactly what you talked about, like because, to put it bluntly, like, now that machines are creating our entertainment, music, art, video games, movies, people don't get to do that anymore, and as a byproduct aren't paid to do it anymore, and so they can focus on work. I'm using that in quotation marks, right? And I don't think, I think you're right. I don't think we'll get there in that creativity is an outlet for humans, and so it would never, it won't stop people from creating, and it won't stop artists from, producing their own original works of art. Mm-hmm. But I think it's, in the context of capitalism, I think it's just another terrifying facet of how companies are going to use it to get out of paying artists. Yeah. No, I think it boils down to that. Get out of paying artists and take people's outlets, creativity, free time away from them, and try to shift it more into like generating profit.
Yeah. If it, I could go on for, and I have gone on, as you know, for hours about how awful companies are and the things they would do to save a penny. And I think that is the biggest concern. I am not super concerned about someone creating an AI art generator and people making memes and sending them to each other. Like, that's not what scares me. What scares me is companies finding ways to use this to crush people further, to take more money from them and pay them less, until we reach the inevitable end of capitalism, where literally all of the money is in the hands of the rich, all of the poor die, and then the rich don't have anyone to sell their products to. Like, that's that's the end of it. that's where it's headed.
And yeah, I guess again that's another episode, another discussion, but I'm glad that we agree on that, though, because like you said, I feel like I almost feel like a sellout saying this, but like again, Mr. Michio using it with his friends, he's like, I've caught him like laughing hysterically like while he's using it, right? And I'm like, I don't want to check this out,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's one of those things where the more you use it, it's like a snowball effect. Like, me using it is not gonna result in a ton of artists not being paid, but in a way it is. So I'm hesitant to jump on board.
Yeah, I think there is a place in the world for AI art. I think that it would be a fantastic alternative slash evolution to stock photos and Creative Commons works. Whatever, I don't know if is Creative Commons right. Whatever the thing is about like stock music, stock photos, all that stuff. It would be a great alternative slash evolution to that. For everything, for video games, like for indie companies and amateurs to make use of. I think that is where AI art would really shine and be good, be a benefit. It's always the rich on top that screw everything up for us.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just thinking of an example of what you said in a microcosm. Like, I think it would be funny if I could somehow get, you know, throwing it back to like 2 years ago when we talked about like commissioning an artist to like draw our WoW characters in a like specific setting and combining like, you know, with balloons and maps and all that. Like you said, I think that would be cool to see materialize, and maybe use it for like, I don't know, my desktop app or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if exactly like you said, if a company gets a hold of that and they start charging people for use of the AI software without paying the artist, that's when it's like gross. And don't do that.
Yep. Yeah, I could even see AI generators being a thing where like you feed it images that you own the rights to. Because say you wanted a picture of your WoW character in a setting, take 400 screenshots of your WoW character from every different angle and feed it in. And then say, I want to see, you know, this character throwing a dart at a balloon. And I think that, yes, that is taking away, like you could have commissioned someone for that. Sure. But you aren't getting it for free if you're paying for the AI software. I don't know.
And just to piggyback on that, you're also not monetizing it. Like I wouldn't like sell t-shirts with it. I probably even wouldn't put it on my stream, maybe TBD. But like, yeah, definitely not like selling merch with it or anything like that. Whereas a bigger company absolutely would.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I didn't really have a that was not a finished thought. It didn't have a conclusion.
I do hear you though, like even on a individual scale, you made the comment like, yeah, you could have commissioned somebody to make that for you, but I don't know. I think on a are we being hypocritical in saying that on an individual scale it's okay, but on a bigger scale it's not? Because you're right, the one artist that I hypothetically didn't ask to draw that for me, I used the software instead. In this hypothetical, I'm paying the software and using images that I own, but like I didn't steal from somebody else.
Yeah. It's difficult. Part of me says, yeah, absolutely, you should have commissioned someone for that. But the other part of me is like, when you want a hamburger, you order from McDonald's sometimes. Like, I don't go find a personal chef to cook me a hamburger. I order from McDonald's. Or, well, I don't order from McDonald's. I order from Burger King or Wendy's, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
When I want a chair, I don't find a carpenter. I go to Walmart or something. It's... I think, and even a more on-the-nose example, when I want to, you know, for work, when I'm actually, yeah, we actually do this. Okay. When an attorney gives me a PowerPoint and says, hey, this is a Christmas thingy, can you add some Christmas pictures in here? I go to the stock photo website and I download some stock photos. We don't commission someone to take or draw some pictures. We use a stock photo website. which to me isn't really any different from using an AI software to generate the photos, as long as the data that was fed into the AI software is stock photos and stuff. That circles back to the sources have to be fair use. They have to, or whatever. They have to have the rights to the sources. But yeah, I think that it's that same thing. If I want a photo that I have the rights to, my options are get a bespoke, perfectly done, exactly as I want it piece of work that I commission someone specifically for and work with them through the process to get exactly what I want, or I go to a company and I get something generic. And no matter how good the AI art gets, as long as we keep the sources limited to reasonable things that they have the rights to, they aren't going to be able to make that bespoke, perfect thing. Like, you might be able to make, like, your WoW character or something, but I wouldn't be able to commission... I wouldn't be able to commission a photo of Anduin getting married to a Murloc to fit my fanfic.
You wouldn't be able to commission the original artist, exactly. Yeah, you can yeah. I think that's about the fairest ideal for personal use, right? As long as you're not selling your fanfic,
Yeah,
and selling your Sorry, that was my dog.
And this is actually maybe something, a discussion for another time, but I do just want to add, I think that it is time that we start making different rules for companies than for people. Which is exactly what companies were trying to stop with their whole companies count as people law that they got passed. But companies are not people, and they do not deserve the same rights as people. And I think that we need to start having laws that are much harsher and more restrictive on companies than on people.
I think that is agree, 1,000%. But I like that as a topic for a different episode of the podcast, of which we do not have a name for.
Was there?
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think we've covered most of what I wanted to get your thoughts on and or share my thoughts on. And even I'm reading what I wrote down about like closing thoughts. We've kind of circled around it, / you've already said it, but it sounds like as in a vacuum, AI generated art is not inherently bad. In fact, it's kind of cool, and for personal use could even be fun. In fact, it is fun based on how much Mizumichi and his friends are cracking up about the weird prompts they're putting in. But just the implications and artists not getting paid and things like that, just it's a terrifying reality that we've seen before and is happening. So
Yeah, I'm going to start looking for lawmakers to maybe start talking about this, because if it takes too long for laws to go into effect, then we're going to have a case like the cookies thing. The law for the cookies thing was passed, I think, like 5 years before it went into effect, because companies demanded having that much time to add a goddamn button to their website.
sorry, that the law was passed, but we as like consumers didn't see the actual pop-ups until way after the law was passed. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, I don't know the exact time frame, but
sure.
It was not an immediate thing. It was on the order of years, not just weeks or months.
Yeah, that needs to be avoided, because think of like if it's the same thing, call it 5-6 years, how many thousands, probably millions of artists are having their work stolen? Millions of artworks, thousands if not millions of artists who aren't getting paid, having their work stolen. And like, what is the company going to do? Back pay them? Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And if there's any kind of hint about that in a law, they will absolutely destroy all records and be like, well, we don't know. We can't back pay.
Capitalism. I think this is one of those things that I'm going to try to not use, because I think I said this earlier, right? But like, one person using it is not a big deal, but 1 times a million, that creates problems. So I'm going to try to avoid this, no matter how much I hear Mr. Mutual laughing, no matter how much it gets talked about at work. I'm going to be like, nope, I don't use it. I have held out, and we're going off the rails here, but I have. Oh no, you've held out better than I have in terms of TikTok, right? You don't even have it.
I don't even have it, but that's not really an intentional choice. I'm just far too lazy to add a video social media platform to my repertoire. I can barely do Tumblr.
I noticed you've abandoned your Instagram, calling you out.
I liked your photo from yesterday that I saw today. Because I only
you haven't posted.
Oh well,
calling you out.
Because I have nothing to post ever.
That's not true. Probably you could post the same thing all day, every day. That's what I do.
True. Just post my stuff on my desk from different angles.
Oh my gosh! And you know what? It'll get picked up in some AI generated art site, and you'll see your slime plushies, maybe with some antlers, I don't know, a balloon background, a racetrack. Can you tell I'm looking at our screen?
Honestly, it makes me really glad that there aren't a lot of pictures of me online. Because it's not just artist work that's being picked up. I'm certain these AI generators are trolling Facebook and Instagram for real human pictures. I would not be thrilled to come across a piece of AI art that is literally my face.
Agreed. No, that's terrifying to think about. And on that happy note.
Yeah, I think that's a whole can of worms that would take a whole other episode, I guess.
I guess we're calling this up. This is our podcast 0.5. No name. I'm calling this episode 0.5 because I sound like I'm in an empty room apparently, and but we don't have a name. And when will the next episode be? When will the next episode be?
Honestly, a long time. Probably not until 2023.
I know, next year.
Yeah, next year. And for those in the future, if anyone is listening to this, it is December 29th, so.
Where it's going to be, the next one's going to be in 3 days. No, it's not.
No, I don't know if we'll do a set schedule, but at the very least, just whenever we think of something to talk about, probably, and then get time to talk about it.
That's the emphasis. Yeah. Right now it's the holidays, so a little bit more bandwidth. This was fun. Thank you, Flair. I appreciate hearing your thoughts. You've given me some new things to think about in terms of AI generated art, and I'm sure this topic will come up again, if nothing else at work, but just I feel like in our creative circles. I don't know what the right word, social circle, creative circle, Discords. I'm sure it'll get brought up again.
Yeah, and thank you for this idea and for doing a lot of the heavy lifting of leading the conversation. I feel like I've mostly been responding to things you say instead of having actually participating. But
that's the whole point of a podcast, right? A conversation. Maybe, although I guess some podcasts are interviews too. That can be, again, future episode. Michio interviews Flair, asks the uncomfortable questions, like why don't you post on Instagram more often? Why aren't you using Comic Sans font in your
Oh
Google
God,
Docs?
no.
Sorry, I'll change mine.
No, yours. You can. It actually helps me keep separate yours and my stuff.
Oh yeah, true. That was the goal. See.
Times New Roman is the best. Although I'm not even using. What am I using? What is the default font? Oh, Arial.
Arial, yeah.
Sucks, man.
What?
There
I'm
we
hanging
go.
up right now.
Times New Roman.
This is podcast over. No more episodes.
No, isn't it?
0.5.
Oh, they don't have Palatino linotype. That's what I want to use is Palatino linotype because it has the exact same syllables as Alexander Hamilton. So you can sing the Alexander Hamilton song, like the intro song, but with Palatino linotype instead.
That is fantastic. You got to get in contact with Weird Al to make that a reality.
That would be really good.
He's done it. Not specifically that, but his Blurred Lines parody was all about like grammar. You've heard that, right?
I have not. I haven't listened to Weird Al and like any of his newer stuff in a long time.
Does 2013 count as new?
Yeah, because I don't think I've listened to anything he's done since like early like 2001 or 2, maybe.
Oh, aging ourselves.
Yeah.
I'll link it to you. I think you'll appreciate it because it's without spoiling too much. It's the Blurred Line song, right? Super controversial. Mm-hmm. He takes it and the video is actually really good too, and it's like him talking about like singing about grammar, and I don't think linguistics is the right word. Idioms, grammar, commonly used sayings. I don't know. It's like my nerdy kind of humor, and I think you'd appreciate it. So I'll send you a link.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I guess that wraps up the AI discussion. Thank you everyone for sticking with us through our meandering.
It's a conversation between friends, and you just get to listen in.
Yes. I will. Don't know what I was going to say. It's gone. I had the first 2 words, and it's gone.
Will there be YouTube VOD, Twitch VOD?
Yeah,
TikTok VOD? No.
I'll download this video as soon as I end the stream, and then tomorrow I'll edit it and start it uploading. No promises on editing out like stuff in the middle, but I will edit out the beginning and the end like I always do.
I was gonna say no rush and no rush on the editing and uploading either. I feel like I don't know when I edited our Lobber Crew video, that took me like again user error, but still it took me a lot of effort. And it's like I know you're working this week, so no rush. It'll be available eventually.
Yeah, my editing is very minimal effort. It just takes a long time because it has to process the video.
Oh, true. Okay.
And also I'm lazy. Like I've had all the Pokemon VODs since I streamed them whenever the game came out, and I've only just now uploaded the first 2 or 3.
I saw that. I saw parts 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, I think I uploaded 3 today.
Let's go. Promo for Flair's YouTube channel.
We did.
Oh, whoa. Good timing.
Yeah. And on that note, also I like that both of our icons are the mech super monkey. That feels very appropriate.
Oh, that's funny. That worked out so well. Nicely done, nicely done. Thank you for the carry.
All right. So I guess thanks everyone for listening and hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.